Cali Performance, we want to be there for individuals, healthcare professionals, and anyone in the fitness industry. Do health and fitness better. I'm Dr. Matt, and in this series, we're going to talk about how to do group fitness better, particularly in the CrossFit space. So, as we start out, a whiteboard brief is talking your members through what's going on in the workout, the intended stimulus for that workout, and just to have an idea of what's planned and how they're going to do it. Typically, I like to do my whiteboard brief after the warm-up. That serves a few purposes for me and my style, but you can do it any way you want to. I do the warm-up first, so that gets people moving as soon as class starts. So if class starts at 5:30, as soon as somebody walks in, 5:30 hits, we are doing something in the warm-up. That also allows for people to kind of trickle in if you have some latecomers, and they can jump in the warm-up and follow along with what everybody else is doing, so they're not missing key components of the whiteboard brief if you start with the whiteboard brief before your warm-up. It also helps you to just have some time to talk while people rest and recover from the warm-up. If I just at 5:30 class time just started talking at the whiteboard, people just came from work. They want to move, and so it's more time where they're not doing anything. So I like that style, but nonetheless, you need to find a time that works for your whiteboard brief. I find that pretty efficient if you do it after the warm-up. When we're talking about this whiteboard brief, you want to go over what you're doing for that day and just read through the workout. For instance, today we're starting with 2 different tests. Test number 6 on the list is a 2-minute AMRAP of dumbbell squats. Then we're going into test number 7, which is a max rep dumbbell floor press, 3 minutes rest, and then you're doing another max rep dumbbell floor press. The WOD for today is 3 4-minute AMRAPs. In part 1, in 4 minutes, as many rounds and reps as possible, you're doing 12 dumbbell squats and 9 burpees. The RX weight is 40 for men, 25 for women. After that 4 minutes is up, we're doing a 2-minute rest. Part 2 is a 4-minute AMRAP of 9 dumbbell squats and 6 burpees. After that 4-minute AMRAP, you're resting for 2 minutes again. And then part 3 is a final 4-minute AMRAP of 6 dumbbell squats and 3 burpees. After you tell your members what you're doing, you want to tell them how you're going to be doing it. For instance, so what this looks like, we're going to split it into 2 different portions. We're going to have the dumbbells of the same weight for all of these different components. So you're going to need a set of dumbbells for that. We're going to give everybody time to get set, and we're going to do this test number 6 of that 2-minute AMRAP. Once we're finished, there will be a little bit of a buffer time before we go into the floor press. We're all going to start the floor press at the same time. Once you fatigue and you can no longer do any more dumbbell floor press, you're going to look at the clock and you're going to rest for 3 minutes. And then after your 3 minutes rest is up, you are going to get into your second set of that max dumbbell floor press. Once everybody is finished, and we're all going to finish at slightly different times out of this test number 7, we're going to regroup. We're going to make sure we have everything set in our stations, and we're going to start this WOD. How we're doing this dumbbell squat and burpee is staying close to those dumbbells so that we are transitioning quickly from the dumbbell squat to another portion into that burpee, and then we're going through this. We are all going to finish at the same time because today we are being paced by this clock at the 4-minute AMRAP and the 2-minute rest. Once we are all done at the same time, we're going to finish with a cool down. So don't go anywhere and don't put your weights away. We're going to use those for the cool down today. After you talk about how the workout is going to go and the flow, so people understand, you want to talk about why we're doing this workout. Some people might talk about why as far as intensity or the intended stimulus for that workout. I like talking about why and just going back and saying CrossFit is observable, measurable, and repeatable. So we're going to find a 2-minute AMRAP of these dumbbell squats for a endurance component so that we can go back and retest this. Same thing with this test number 7, finding something for our upper body that is challenging for max reps. As we go into the WOD, this stimulus should feel difficult. You should feel gassed, but the 2-minute rest should be just enough time to get into the next AMRAP, but to be able to do more rounds than you did in the previous part. The number or the reps are getting progressively lower, so I want your rounds or reps to be higher with each successive part. And with that, you might have to challenge yourself for that today, digging deep, knowing that this last portion is only 4 minutes. It'll be over before you know it. Now, after you go over what and you read the whiteboard, you go over how and how you're going to structure the whole class and the moving pieces that might be there, and why. Why are we doing this? And then the components that lead into this overall health and what you're going to feel during that workout. We need to talk about scalable options and maybe even some modifications. You might throw that in your warm-up. You might throw that in before you come to the whiteboard brief, but you need to go over those. I'm not a huge fan of doing that during the whiteboard brief. Some people do. They like to show the dumbbell squat, and then they like to show some different modifications here. I think that should be kind of included in your warm-up and maybe a specific breakdown session before you get going with the workout. But nonetheless, your members need to know, okay, if I can't do the dumbbell squats at 40 pounds or 25 pounds, what can I do? And you need to give them options. Wrapped up into this scaling or modification is knowing your members and maybe even asking the group in general, a show of hands, anybody with back pain or knee pain today that we need to modify some of these movements. Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. I'll come and I'll talk to you as we're getting all set up. And then go and give Tim some option that he can do so he feels included in this fitness class, but also he is doing everything the same and pushing himself to his abilities. Lastly, and sometimes this is wrapped up and embedded in this, or when people open the app that you're using to track, it's already telling them that score, but people that are new might not know that they need to track this. So telling them at the whiteboard before you break about scoring. You're going to write how many dumbbell squats you did in 2 minutes. You're going to write down your max rep floor press for the first part and the second part. And you're going to track the rounds and reps that you get in each part of this workout today. Some people might not understand what an AMRAP is, and they might ask you that question. That's fine. You're just going to tell them that you're doing as many rounds, and a round is both 9 and 6. But if on your second round you only get 9 dumbbell squats and 3 burpees on your second round, your score is going to be 1 round plus 12, 9 plus 3. And that is what I would consider a good flow for a whiteboard brief. Now, as we've been talking about this, that was pretty long. You want to keep your whiteboard brief brief. If you really gassed everybody in the warm-up and they need 2, 3, 4 minutes of rest, that's great. But you should think about making sure your class is moving the entirety of that allocated time. So if I stand up here and go over this, and it takes me 10 or 15 minutes to just do a whiteboard brief, bear in mind, people came to your class to move, and they came to exercise. They didn't come to hear you give a lecture or a seminar series, so they don't want to just listen to you talk. Try and get through this as clearly and as quickly as possible so that they can get back into moving and exercising for the time period that's allotted. And that's the first part in our series regarding group exercise class, specifically focused on CrossFit.